Hello and welcome to the Freelance Mama. My name is Kelly Dawson, and it is my mission through the Freelance Mama to help teach mums how they can use the skills that they already have to start their very own freelance businesses. And on today's live, I wanted to talk to you about something that I was having a conversation with about one of the ladies who follows my Facebook page. Now, we've been chatting in a group online, and she was looking for a way to work from home, and I suggested freelancing as an option. And so she wanted to know a little bit more about what freelancing is and how I got started. Well, I guess she kind of knew what freelancing was loosely, but how I got into freelancing and what I do as a freelancer. And I kind of thought that I made that clear, but I wanted to make sure that it's really clear with you what I do, how I do it, and how I got into it, because I guess it's kind of to demystify the process a little bit. And so I guess, because for me, it's been um, a really great experience. I've been really fortunate to have work come to me, and so I kind of wanted to talk to you a bit about how that worked and where I got started. So, for those of you who don't know, my background was that I was a lawyer. So prior to having kids, went to law school, graduated, got a job pretty traditionally as a lawyer working for a barrister, and then later on went to work in a firm. And so, worked for almost 5 years before I had my first son. And then I went on maternity leave, and my expectation at that point, before I had kids, my expectation had always been to, go on maternity leave, be on maternity leave for a few months or maybe sort of a year tops, and then go back to my corporate job. And then after a little while of having a real life baby at home, I realized that this this idea of going straight back into a corporate job was a bit daunting. And so I decided to sort of give things a little bit more time. And I didn't really have any intention of doing any work during that period while I was on maternity leave. My plan was to basically take the time off with my oldest son, and then to have another child in fairly quick succession, and then look at going back to work full time after that. And so what actually ended up happening was, while I was on maternity leave, I think Oliver was probably a few months old, maybe 3 or 4 months old. I'm not too sure. I can't remember exactly. But by that time, he was having a decent nap in the middle of the day, and I was contacted by my old boss, actually, who was looking for someone to help her with a one-off job. And at that time, I really, like, the thought of doing any sort of legal work hadn't even really crossed my mind. I didn't have a practicing certificate at that point in time, and so even the thought of doing support work, legal support work, which is what I ultimately do now. Um, so to give a bit more background, so what I do now is I do a range of legal support and admin support for businesses. My primary focus is in the legal area because that's where my expertise is. I was working as a lawyer, and so having worked in the legal industry, I have quite a good background knowledge about the kinds of things that lawyers need help with. So some of that is things like research, things like legal admin. So there's some quite specific type of tasks that need to be done. Invoicing, again, there can be some fairly specific things that are required in terms of legal invoicing, that you need a little bit of specialist knowledge. So having had that background in law gives me the ability to assist lawyers in particular and other small business owners, having used those skills. Now, I also have a range of other skills that I've picked up from other jobs that I've had, and also from my experience as a property investor and having a property business. So, like, for example, when I was working as a lawyer, I hadn't done anything with Zero. But through having my own business, we, have Zero, and I learned how to use Zero that way. So again, that's another sort of a service I can provide to my customers. And as time's gone on, I have now got a client that's not in the legal space, and or a couple of clients in the non-legal space, and are helping them as well with that. So with those kind of jobs that are more admin related than legal related strictly, but I got my foot in the door, if you like, as providing legal support. And one of the reasons why I got that legal support work in the first place was because of the relationship that I had with my old boss. So that very first job, again, like I say, it was just a couple of weeks worth of work. at a fixed hourly rate. At that point in time, she came to me and said, I need someone to do this job. I expect it's going to take about this many hours, and I'm willing to pay this hourly rate. Does that work for you? I was quite happy with that. Again, like I say, I was on maternity leave. I wasn't planning on doing any work. So to get that work at that time was great for me. It was like a little bit of bonus money coming in the door. So that was really great. I hadn't thought about it as being a business model of any sort. I didn't even know freelancing was a thing. So it was just great to have a little bit of extra pocket money at that point in time. And then very soon after that, I was actually approached again by another former employer. Now, he knew nothing about the fact that I was doing this, offering this as a service or anything like that. Just happened to be timing wise, he needed help. He called me and said, would I be interested? Now, at that time, we were in the middle of renovating houses with a small baby. And so I didn't really feel like taking on extra work at that point in time. So I did turn that work away then. But again, at that time, what I hadn't realized is that these approaches for work, again, on an hourly basis for a specific job, could turn into a nice little business for me. Didn't click to that at that time. It was just a couple of one-off things that came my way. So continued on with my maternity leave, ended up having another baby fairly soon after. So then when Xavier came along, again, I was really fortunate to be approached by somebody else who was looking for help. Now, that job that I got approached for Xavier was a few months old. And again, I wasn't really planning on getting into doing more work, but I was offered a contract doing some property investment consulting. And so at that time, again, it was quite good to have that income, and that work built up over time to become basically a full-time job, working as a contractor to a company helping with property investment coaching. So for me, again, it was another freelance type job that came to me. I didn't generally have to work in an office. I did have some meetings in the office and did do some presentations in the office, but for the most part, my work was from home for that. And so I guess, as you can see, I think just from why I explain, from my own experience, why I explain that it's your own network where a lot of you will find your first clients, is because I guess that's how it's happened for me. And I think that those people who are within your own network, they know you, they know your work style, they know your values, they know what kind of a person you are, they know your work ethic, especially if they've worked with you before. Like I said, two approaches that I had in the early days came from my former employers. And now I think, as some of you also know, I went back to work. So I did this contract for about 18 months doing the property stuff. And I kind of had this niggle that I wanted to get back into law. And so I went back to full-time work. And I found for myself that it wasn't going to work. After probably a few months, I guess I realized, working full-time, working long hours back as a lawyer in a law firm, that having that kind of job working with small kids is just really, really hard work, and really stressful. It was stressful for everybody. It was stressful for my kids. It was stressful for me. It was stressful for my husband. I was often late home, didn't see the kids before they went to sleep, and that kind of thing. So that full-time job model didn't work for me. But again, I hadn't even thought about the option of leaving that job and doing some sort of contract work. Now, somebody even said to me at the time, what about if you spoke to your boss about doing some work from home or something like that? And I said, I just don't even think that's really an option. So I left that job thinking that was the end of my legal career. Started, as you will have heard from my my presentations last week, looking into other business models, looking at a whole heap of different ways of working from home. And I did try a lot of those, wasn't having a lot of success, wasn't making a lot of money. And I was starting to think about the fact that I might have to go back to that job, or I might have to go back to a job of some description as a lawyer. And I wasn't all that excited about the prospect of having to do that, because I knew all the sacrifices, again, that I would have to make when I went down that track. And having a bit of a chat to a friend about this one day, I said to her, look, I'm really starting to get desperate. I need to earn a decent amount of money from home. And the things that I had tried just really were not working for me. And she said, look, I know you don't want to get into law, but I have a friend who needs someone to help her. Would you have any interest in doing this thing? It's just a one-off thing. Would you have any interest in giving her some help doing that? So I sort of said, reluctantly, I guess at the time, I said yes. Because I really at that point needed to start earning some money. So I took on this contract, or this job that was like supposed to be a one-off. So it was just doing some legal support work, doing some sort of document preparation. That was going to be a job for a couple of weeks' time, and that for a set hourly rate. And I thought that sounded great, so I did that job. And after a few weeks, the person who I was working for had, said to me, look, I've got some other work coming up. Would you be interested in doing that as well? And so I said, yeah, no, that sounds really good. And so I started to get some more regular work, and then a bit more work, and then a bit more work. And so what's happened is that over the course of the last almost 2 years now, I've been working mainly for one client. So my main client, basically just as time went on, started to send more and more work my way, I guess, as she got to know my work style, got to know me better. I mean, again, we hadn't worked together previously with this client, so this wasn't a former employer of mine, or but she was referred to me through somebody who I had worked with previously. So again, this contact came to me through my existing network, through another friend who is a lawyer, who put us in touch with each other. Had the initial conversation, did an initial job, sort of, I guess, kind of a bit like a trial, I guess, so that we got to know each other, and she got to know my work ethic and style, and how I guess we gelled well together. And then that's become an ongoing thing for me. So we don't have a formal arrangement. It's just an ongoing relationship that we have, where she sends work to me and I do work for her. I invoice her for that work on our agreed hourly rate. I do different things at different rates. So as time's gone on, I've started doing some admin work, which I do at a slightly lesser hourly rate. And again, I've picked up some other admin work for other companies that are doing that admin sort of style work that I've been referred because of this relationship with this person as well. So again, referral within the same network to a business within that person's network. So that's kind of how it's developed for me. And I think that you'll find a lot of you that is how it develops for you as well. I know you see a lot of things out there on the internet about finding customers and having Facebook pages, having Instagram pages and fancy websites, and all of those things. And those things are nice, and that they might be nice things to have. But I really honestly believe that for a lot of people, and it's worked for people who I've coached as well, is that your first client is more than likely already in your existing network. Now, it might not be that a friend of yours is the person who you work for, but they might know someone who needs help. And when I say your existing network, I think as well in terms of your broader network. Like, think about who you know on LinkedIn. Like, if you change your LinkedIn status and say looking for work, who might go, oh, that's good to know. Or like, you'll have a lot of colleagues who perhaps don't personally need your help, but know of somebody who needs help, or their boss might need help, or someone in their network, someone else they know might need help, and people can refer you. So even though you might think, okay, well, in my immediate network, I can't think of anybody who needs help, because you've worked in this particular industry, there will be people who know you or know of you, and either are prepared to offer you work, might need help, or know of somebody else who needs help. So, and it's really great as well if it's somebody, say, for example, my former boss knew of someone who needed help. She could give a really good testimonial because I've worked with her both as an employee and as a freelancer. So, yeah, I really wanted to talk to you about this, because I just think it can seem complicated, and it can seem like you need to know so much stuff and you need to market yourself really broadly. But really, I think that for most of you, those first contacts are going to come from existing relationships, because those people know you. They know, what kind of a person you are. They know how you work. They know what you know. And it's really easy for them to either take you on or to refer you to somebody else. So I think it's really, really important when you're thinking about something like this to think about who those people are. And maybe they don't come to you. Maybe you're not, you aren't approached directly as I have been. Very fortunate to have, had lots of things opportunities come my way. I think you can be proactive about that as well. You don't just have to wait for things to come your way. You could reach out to people in your network and say, look, this is something I'm thinking about doing. As I mentioned earlier, it could be as simple as changing your LinkedIn status if that's possible. Say, for example, if you're on maternity leave. I mean, maybe if you're employed, you might not want to do that, but maybe if you are employed and you're thinking about leaving employment, or you've decided that you're leaving employment, even if you might be on maternity leave thinking about leaving your job, and your existing boss could be your first freelance client. Just think about that. Like, don't write it off unless you really don't like your existing boss. If you're thinking about leaving anyway, what is the harm in having a conversation with that person and saying, look, I need to get out of this job. I need to be able to have some more flexibility and work from home. And they might say, okay, well, we don't want to lose you, but we're happy to take you on as a contractor on a set, hourly basis, maybe even the same hourly rate as you have now, just to get you started, but to give you that flexibility. Or maybe they're prepared to cut back your hours, or come up with some sort of flexible arrangement. They might, like I say, they might be your first freelance client, because it might be better for them to keep you in some way than to lose you completely. So really think about those things, and think about other people. Like, one of the things I encourage people to do is to think about everybody in your network who you could reach out to and have a conversation to, or with, sorry, and see what those people have to say. Because, like I say, if they can't give you work, they can possibly refer you to somebody who can do. So that gives you something to think about, I think. I hope that helps for you to get some clarity around what it is that I do. If you want a bit more information, or if you have any questions, feel free to drop me a question in the comments. I am happy to share. It's just that this freelancing thing has been an amazing opportunity for me, and a really amazing opportunity for my family. And I just want to share the message and help show other mums that it's possible, and it's not overly complicated. It's something that any of us can do. I really am confident that most of you will have skills that you can freelance in one way or another. And if you're struggling to see that, then again, drop me a message, and I'm happy to have a conversation with you and see if I can help you with that as well. So that is about all I have today. I will be back on Friday, and I will talk to you again soon. Have a lovely day. Bye.